So I waited a long time before I went to University of Penn, and I would say that was our complete hub of street skating for Philadelphia at one point in time. This particular one's gonna hold a special place in my heart because of just how much time I spent down here, like as a teenager and like even in my adult years, and just how much time I spent wasting like skating up and down these blocks from time to time, like every Saturday from like 10 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m. But essentially, if you were a Philadelphia street skater growing up back in the day, 9 times out of 10 when you visited the city on a Saturday, you went to Drexel or UPenn. A lot of us who lived outside of the city, we used to take the train in from all over. So I would come from the Delco area, guys coming from Burlington, New Jersey, they were coming in. You would have people from Maple Shade that would be coming in, and then you would have people from the Northeast and so on and so forth. The whole bunch of crews would come in and basically meet up and skate there. For the most time, we would meet up there and then we would skate in the Penn. We'll kind of go in a little chronological order on how I cruised this day. So I started off at the area. I actually parked at the area where it was called the fence rails. Essentially, it was on one of the worst grounds ever. I'm talking about the grounds that when you fell, it would completely rip you off, the sandpaper ground. And it was this rail that had a fence underneath of it. But after so much time, the fence eventually got completely broke off, so it was basically just a rail with, a normal handicap rail. But the problem was, the stuff that held up the fencing was still in there, so you would have little pieces that were sticking out, so if you kind of, for some reason, like I did one time, completely get wrapped underneath the rail, it would make you regret your decision on wanting to skate there. They took this out in like the mid-2000s, and they replaced it with this gigantic park where they have like small ledges, but then they have this like kind of like roll out to like this really big long ledge. Nick had actually hit it in the last dyno. I think it was dyno 2, so we went there. It's not really my cup of tea. I don't really like ledges that kind of have cracks that stick out a little bit, but it's something that's there. But that's what replaced the fence rail. A lot of time was spent there, especially eating the bacon, egg, and cheese spot that was in front before we even knew about buoys. We would go, fence rail, then we would go to Penn Kink, which I couldn't believe it when I pulled up to it, but it's actually gone. So there's 2 sister ones. There was the one that they skated in the Hoax, and then the one that I liked more because it didn't have like a 10-stair down rail and stairs that you had to jump at the end of it, but it was like this mellow roller coaster kink, but it had like a really fast green paint on it, but it had brick ground with like, they had to kind of like step on a stone and like jump onto it. And the kink was like more of like, not your traditional like boom boom, it was more of like a flowy kind of kink. So if you didn't like really like watch yourself, you can kind of slip back and like really get killed on it. And many people and many folks have gotten killed on it. But it was one of those rails that was featured in the original Hoax 5. One of those hoaxes. I wasn't really a big Hoax fan. And then primarily skated throughout the years. We didn't really go to it too much in the last 10-15 years because it was kind of a spot where you wouldn't really get kicked out unless somebody was like really looking at you from that way. It would always be one of those ones where we would sit up and like regroup for everybody. Right on the corner there is the spot that I did in dyno. I just wanted to show you a little bit. It's basically like a tight roll up. The problem with this was it was really slippery on the ground and it was really quick at the bottom to kind of like jump over, jump down, and we used to just kind of skate it as a wall ride spot. Like you would jump over the little rail, then just do a wall ride really quick. Remember, I just wanted to get something there, and it just turned out to be able to like jump over, grind, and land on the thing, and then luckily be able to throw a little trick off of it. I just wanted to show you like how tight it actually is up top and how slippery it kind of is, but. Then you go to the right, and it's kind of what's overwhelming about Penn is like you literally can skate 15-20 feet and there's a new spot. And this was actually the cover of VG16. If you're older skaters that remember the East Coast VG, which is I think maybe one of the most important VGs to come out and one of the better VGs to come out. But Murder Fish Brain on the cover, this was the spot. You would never know it just by like driving down the street. You'd be like, this looks like a random marble ledge, but they had to kick a ramp up to it, made it happen. Further down the street, we're gonna go into the library rail. And the library rail is that famous spot that has been absolutely, completely decimated over the years. Bellino's done every trick possible. Mark Voigt has done every trick possible. Sean's done every trick possible. Sean did the gap to roll, which is absolutely insane, but pulling up to it and it's completely blocked off. I don't know if they're revamping and taking out the rail, but the ground is completely taken up and it used to be like a brick landing. It's a fenced off right in front of the rail, so you can kind of see it's still there as I show you over the fence view, the Frederick view. little close up of how the rail is. So everybody just thought it was like a normal rail, but it was like this weird sculptured round rail where you didn't really give you a problem with locking soles, but it was always that like mental thing of like, are you going to lock in the proper way to do this? Just one of those rails. It was the perfect down the middle of the stairs. And in Philadelphia, we didn't grow up with too many of those. We had like William Penn, Meehan, and like I can't even think of another one outside of that. I let people have this thing. I jumped the stairs one time. That was fun. Just seeing like the level of tricks. I know Bellino just absolutely destroyed it one time too. It's in a multitude of videos. Pretty much every Philly video back in the day had I could have this would be like a 30-minute video if I included in every clip possible. So go back and support those guys' old films. Just one of those long-standing rails where this should have been, if anything, I thought this would have been capped a long time ago, and we kind of like lucked down that didn't happen. That used to be a spot where you get like, some days you would be able to skate it for hours, and some days you'd be able to literally walk up the stairs and you would just get thrown out. Hopefully it will be there for future generations to come. Right up the stairs from there, I'm going to show you the little installment of the start of Mecca, as I would like to call it. Skating in the Penn, your ultimate goal is to always go into the Perlman quadrangle. The Perlman quadrangle, or is best referred to as Mecca. Even going back to it today, it's overwhelming how many spots were and are still there. I'll just start it off with, you're coming from Library Round, you take this little left, and it's a pathway, and then you just immediately see rails and this up ledge that's like, coated with wax. And that was one of those ones we used to skate back in the day, primarily at night. The bottom ledge and that up ledge was a fun line, and people would also skate the ledge and then they would go hit the drop ledge over. Also right next to it is the little slide pad, the rail that I believe Elias and Anthony Serini did tricks on, and I believe Serini did like backfire true top horn up the rail, which is insane. Eddie B also did, the East Coast switch up on the rails that are right down the hill right here. So this was just like one of our, like, if we were lucky or get kicked out of Mecca, this would be the bottom of Mecca that we would skate, because you'd have 300-foot flat rails if you really wanted to skate that. You had a drop ledge if you really want to jump on this rough material, which was like sandpaper at the time, and take the drop and hurt your knees. You could 100% do that. There was a really good straight ledge that was higher than actually all the other ledges at Mecca. That was probably the highest ledge in Penn in terms of like regular straight ledge. The only bad thing about it is it didn't really have a beginning or end. You kind of like, jumped on, jumped off, which is cool. It's still an option, but you can see that's completely gone with wax. It's non-existent. Then you turn this corner, you see that little kink rail that Sean did the little gap and he rolled into it in between it back in the day. Still insane. Still didn't realize like how close those bars are to the bottom of the rolling, which is insane. And then you cruise up and there's this whole big pavilion, whole wide open area, which, thinking about it now, like when I visit other cities, there's not too many places that have like a wide open concrete area just like spread out in the middle of the city. Or sorry, spread out in the middle of the college. You just go up and then you just see it, and it's like, this is Mecca when you first see it. A long curved ledge on the bottom, handrails on both sides. There's a gap that you can hit a roll in the gap that many people have done, and just it was a sea of ledges and a sea of basically a Mecca of skate spots. You start off, you have that high ledge over here that you hit the line with the curved ledge, come up and then grind that thing. You can either just stand up there, do your best down rail trick. A lot of people, I think Malik was the king of doing the jump over the ledge on the outside and grind down the down ledges on the outside, which was another element that you can add to it. At the top, we had, I don't want to guesstimate feet, but probably like a 55-foot long double ledge that were really low, and I didn't realize that they had these like things sticking out of them till today, and that they had two twin sister ledges that had copious amounts of wax, but they were really low, and we would only skate them really at night. Crazy part about this place, way back in the day, you had literally like 5 minutes or less to skate it before, security guards or Penn cop would just walk by, run up on you. And there'd be so many times where we would be in the city and like there would be a crew already there. We'd be skating into there and seeing them getting chased down and have to like join the chase with them just to get out of Penn. And that was the crazy part about it, because, they would go on full-on missions when we were like 15, 16 to like chase us for like blocks and blocks and blocks. Like they got their kicks out of that thing. They chased us all the way to Drexel every single time. And I remember there would be people losing their iced teas. There'd be people with broken wheels and losing bolts on the way down. People are afraid that they're actually going to get caught. And there was times like people have been sat down there and had their names taken down and got tickets. And I vividly recall one time where it was me and Eddie B and like a bunch of random guys from South Philly. And I remember we got stopped and I was just sitting there like, I was like a little bit older at the time, and I'm just like, man, I'm not going through this whole thing. And I was just got my ass out of there. I got as fast as I could to Drexel, and I remember my heart was pumping because it's a pretty far skate when you're going from Mecca, especially you got to go through the universities, through these like one-way streets, and like hope that you don't get run into by a bike cop or somebody else. So, you know, I attribute it to my health now for having to run from securities of Drexel and Penn for so long. Just being able to skate Mecca back in the day was just a privilege. Like, you would be able to skate the curve ledge. It was, alright, I'll say this, it was a lot better to skate it at night. You had a lot more time. You would probably, if you were going at like 3 o'clock in the morning, you would have absolutely no problem for the most part. Unless you would have that occasional security guard that's just doing his ways. But nowadays it seems like I went out here on moving day just to like check it out and film some stuff. And I had the ability to be able to skate the top ledge for a little bit. Seeing all the wax like pretty much off a lot of the obstacles is kind of like expected. And I thought for a while, like a couple years ago, they had actually taken up like all the tiles on the bottom, and I thought this spot was going to be gone. And
R.I.P. Mecca. Man, we're gonna do this rail too. It sucks.
They refixed it up a little bit. The top ledge I think is power washed on pretty much half of it except for the end. And as I was saying before, there's like these little things that stick out now, and I'm not too sure if they were there before. I remember there were lights at night, and I have not been there at night, so I cannot clarify how the lighting is. But I remember one of the last times I went there was like pitch black when we were up there. So night skating there, I would say no go, but for day skating right now, I'd say it's phenomenal. Just when you really step back and you're at the spot and you think about like all the great skating that has gone down here and like over the years. I mean, I understand we have Love Park, I understand we have FDR, I understand we have Muni, which are like, and City Hall, which is like the trifecta of like great spots. But for rollerblading, I feel like hundreds of people have gone there and skated there from like all over the place. And just to think that was like, this was the spot for a long time, like it was the forbidden spot. And throughout the years, you were able to skate it, get more time at it, and like they laxed a little bit more on you skating there and throwing you out. So I wouldn't recommend like going there with a huge session, but if you're going to check it out just to like get some nostalgia feeling and get a little touch, or maybe grind it for the first time if you never did it, definitely go check it out. Top ledges are better than they were back in the day. The bottom ledges, the big curve one, I think is completely unskateable. The rails, which were actually shaky and like broken up for a while, they fixed and completely re-cemented in, so they're good. As you can see around the corner, there's a drop ledge that we skated a little bit back in the day, but we really didn't film on it. And there was a long flat rail that was in one of the VGs. Then around that corner, away from the fake love sign, you got the kink rail that people would grind, hit the ledge, or grind, roll on the ledge, and continue on. And this is just all within like half a block. Like you got library rail starting there. Really, it's all within 3 blocks from the start of the video, but you go from library rail all the way around to this huge Mecca part, and there's just literally you can have like, you would have multiple crews of skaters skating like 2 different parts of the whole spot at a time, which is, even so, you could have had people at library rail, people at the bottom part of Mecca, and people at, you know, the top part of Mecca. This is overwhelming. Like just thinking about it, like you took it, I don't want to say we took it for granted, because I feel like we were very lucky with what we had. Phenomenal memory going to see that, but phenomenal time. And then, you know, now right outside of Mecca is that button that Nick did the 360 on. And this button was always skated back in the day. People would always go around, try to grind it. And it would always be the thing that would make a lot of dumb, loud noise, but just this random art sculpture. And then if we're going to be honest, right next to that is another BMX, like, legendary spot. Sorry, it's legendary in the BMX lore. So it's like, you got so much history of like all these extreme sports that are just in this one place. And I could still do more on just this area, but I'm just going to break down this part in the Penn library, Penn kink, this fence rail, and wow, overwhelming. Have you ever skated Mecca? Have you ever been to Penn and skated in Philadelphia? Let me know in the comments below. Trickiest part about skating Penn is just being able to like stay like ninja enough to where you just don't get thrown out at the first sight. Because if you can get in there and skate for a little bit, pretty much you were able to skate for a long time. But if you were sketchy and, you know, somebody caught you, because they would have the eyes on you at all times. 62.3% of you are not subscribed. So if you are not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button below. It really helps the channel. But if you enjoyed this episode, watch the old ones, watch all the new stuff coming up, I'm gonna probably do a part 2 on Penn because there's a lot more spots in here, and I didn't want to make this video 45 minutes long with me babbling about memories of running away from people. But till next time.